Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about Bitcoin ETFs, how there's a new futures ETF that's about to be approved as of Monday or Tuesday, and what this means for Bitcoin. Before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Ledin. Ledin is a sponsor of mine and the best place to earn yield on your Bitcoin or borrow against your Bitcoin as collateral and get those dollars that you need. I personally use them, definitely recommend that you check them out. Link is below. Okay, let's jump on in. And I write this up first on Thursdays in the Held Report, which is my newsletter. And so I write this up first on Thursdays. 4 days later, I publish it, or 3 days later, I publish it on YouTube here. So, okay, let's go through this. Bitcoin ETFs. Now, I've been in the space a long time, and I remember Bitcoin ETFs being talked about all the way back in 2013, which is pretty wild. And I mean, back in that day, this was July 2013. It was like, I think the fund size was only $20 million or something like that. And so, people have been trying to get an ETF for a very, very long time here. And recently, there's been some huge developments as to why Bitcoin ETF is probably going to get approved early next week. And so an analysis done by Bloomberg did a really good breakdown. These guys did this really cool thread here, which I'll link to in the description below. They went through and from Bloomberg's perspective, systematically, they believe that because of all these reasons, there's that it will be approved this early next week. We saw some other signs as well. So yeah, as I mentioned before, there's a long history of trying to get this done for almost 8 years, and now we're finally seeing it happen. The reason why the SEC didn't approve it before was due to a couple issues. One, that they felt there was a lot of manipulation or the inability to surveil or analyze markets to make sure that manipulation wasn't occurring. Number two was that the price discovery was occurring offshore or on non-US exchanges. And so a futures ETF solves this problem because they can point to the CME and use the CME as a source of truth of non-manipulated leading price. And so that's why I think that these are the two big reasons that why an ETF wasn't previously approved, but this is why a futures ETF looks very likely to be approved. A futures ETF is easier to get started because it solves those issues like I mentioned above. And the US, what they really want is like control over this. They want to be able to go surveil, and go look at the different trades and see me and know who was behind it versus different exchanges across the world like Binance, etc. But these come with problems. For example, Alex Kruger points out that futures are usually in contango, which means that the future price of Bitcoin is greater than spot. And so at rollover, it suffers from contango bleed. Essentially, it has this like slow drop in price over time. And many more others today on Twitter came out and talked about how this isn't great for retail because this isn't truly owning Bitcoin, it's owning a futures product, and owning spot would be much better. So the two types of ETF, like I mentioned, futures is the one that's likely to be approved due to it being able to be connected to the CME in terms of like CME pricing and surveillance. But spot is what we really want. So spot is cheaper. It typically has cheaper fees than a futures ETF. It's comprised 100% of Bitcoin, whereas a futures ETF can hold Bitcoin and other things. And there's also some other tail risk with how futures are constructed, how these futures ETFs are created to where rebalancing those could be problematic. And so based on everything I've seen, it looks like a spot ETF is likely to be approved in Q1, Q2 next year. And so that's what we ideally are looking for. But as of next week, a futures ETF is on the horizon. Before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Choice, one of my sponsors. As most of you know, when you hodl, you don't have to pay taxes. But what if I told you that you could hodl and when you eventually sell your Bitcoin, you wouldn't have to pay any taxes then? Well, I didn't think that was possible until I found a Choice IRA. Choice is the best retirement account to set up for Bitcoiners that lets you buy and hold Bitcoin in stocks without paying a dime to the government. And how does that work? Choice is an IRA. They have IRAs and Roth IRAs, which means it's a special type of retirement account where you don't pay taxes if you hodl until a certain age, along with some other stipulations. And the best part, you can self-custody your Bitcoin with Choice, which means that you don't have to trust Choice or anyone else with your Bitcoin or your private keys. It's the perfect retirement solution for Bitcoiners. The best time to start stacking sats was 11 years ago. The second best time is today. Search Stack Sats in the App Store or choiceapp.io/held. Link is included in the description below. Go check it out right now. And here's what that timeline looks like. So, around October 18th, which I believe is Monday, we are looking at, let's see tomorrow. That is, let me check the date real quick. That is Monday, yes. On Monday, that's when we should see the first one approved. And then we've got the other dates as well here, and these are all futures. And I would definitely recommend you check this out. This was done by Arcane Research. They do a really good job of researching different topics. They also just a great report on Lightning. Definitely recommend you check out all of the research. This was a chart I pulled from that, and they have a bigger chart as well. So when you click in on this, you can go see a bigger chart, which shows kind of a more zoomed out timeline of a bunch of other ETFs and their sort of approval dates. So yeah, definitely recommend you check that out. But as of Monday, that's the first one, ProShares, and everything's looking positive there. So remember this odds chart that I provided by Bloomberg up above? Well, the ProShares one is the most likely one to be approved Monday. And as of now, there's 12 pending spot ETF applications and 7 futures-based. And these futures-based ones came after Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman, on August 3rd said this comment. Given these important protections, I look forward to the stats review of each filing, particularly if those are limited to these CME traded Bitcoin futures. So he gave a very strong signal to these ETF applicants. If it's futures related, I'll likely approve it. And so there's been a huge rally in Bitcoin's price over the last month as people anticipate this ETF getting approved. We've also seen a surge in open interest as well on futures. So a lot of activity indicating that the big whales, the big people who are in the room, think that this is going to happen. And so Forbes did a great write-up here and also analyzed open interest and a few other factors to show that, like, yes, the market's starting to price in an ETF being approved. And just yesterday, Valkyrie, one of the ETF applicants, made a move that usually signals that they're probably going to get approved. They're basically, they updated their ETF prospectus, and there was a bunch of other flurry of activities yesterday to where different companies signaled that they're likely to be approved. With this, want to caveat that no one knows for certain, but these were all checking the boxes of like approval is coming soon. And so the market, Bitcoin has rallied and went over $60,000 of Bitcoin in the last couple of days because of this, because everyone believes that the ETF will be approved. In conclusion, I think an ETF for Bitcoin is huge news. It means that Bitcoin is mature, it's easily accessible. A futures ETF isn't ideal. Ideally, it'd be spot, and that's coming soon. But a futures ETF is still great. Do want to caution if you watch this and you're like, oh man, the price might go up a lot. It might, but this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news. This has happened before. This is a classic trader terminology of everyone's buying it in anticipation of the news, and then when the news hits, the prices drop. Note that when I originally wrote this, I was long Bitcoin via spot and call options, and I'm still long Bitcoin. So nothing's changed, but I'm still long Bitcoin, but just wanted to disclose that in case people wanted to know. Hope you enjoyed watching this. If you like this, give me a like, give me a subscribe at the bottom. It helps with the algorithm. Appreciate you watching, and let me know what you think. Cheers.